Hi, I'm Jo.
And I'm Sarah, and welcome to episode 8 of the Society of Unpublished Authors podcast.
This podcast is recorded in Western Sydney on the lands of the Darug people. We pay our respects to the original custodians and storytellers of this land and to elders past and present. This week's episode is all about critique groups. Sarah, just in case there's anyone out there who doesn't know, what is a critique group?
A critique group is a group of writers who help each other improve their writing. So they can do this by reading, offering feedback on each other's work.
And there's different genres that people are writing in. Do you think it's important to have people in your critique group that are writing in the same genre as you?
Whilst there are different groups for different genres, it's probably not necessary to only meet within your genre or your niche. It could be helpful to have some well-rounded feedback. You might also learn about different writing styles or different types of books that you've never heard of before.
And you had this experience at the Kidlit West critique group, didn't you, where somebody brought their verse novel?
Yes, I had never heard of a verse novel until Adam brought his in. It was really interesting. It's an interesting way to find out about a piece of writing, like in a small dose, hearing feedback on it, because sometimes you read something that you've never read before and you're like, I don't know if I don't connect with it or if it's not like true to the genre or if it's just something I've never heard of before and I'm just a little confused. So it's nice to kind of learn it, hear feedback, speak to the person that wrote it. And it was a really good introduction to verse novels. I maybe would have never picked one up otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're in 2 critique groups. Do you want to tell us about your experience with how they usually run?
Yeah, so one of them that I've been in the longest, which is a picture book writing critique group, run by Mo Davey. She's a picture book author and illustrator. Shout out to Mo. She runs our critique group in quite a structured way. And for someone who's new, I think it can be a little bit of a surprise as to how structured it is, but it works so well. I'll just give you a quick rundown on how it works. So we bring our item for critiquing and then we get firstly somebody else to read it. This is a really good way to hear your manuscript read by someone else, and that really points out where people are going to stumble on words, things that are not working, just hearing somebody else read your work, which is immediately very helpful. And then we break for 5 minutes exactly. We use timers. 5 minutes, everyone has to write some feedback for your work, and then one by one, everyone can give you some feedback. 3 small items of feedback, and we have a no arguing rule, which means as you're getting your feedback, you have to shush. You cannot defend your ideas. You cannot clarify. You just have to listen. And I think that can be quite hard for some people because they want to say, oh, but I did this for this reason. I meant this. No, shush, and you just get the feedback.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Do you feel that you've had really good feedback in that group because of the no arguing? Like you haven't been able to put your own biases, your own perspectives and change minds?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes you go away and think about it, because at the time you might think, oh, that's not right. But of course, when you go away and think about things, you always see that actually there's an element of truth. And shout out to my picture book writing group. I am the only person who is not published in that group. They are a really excellent source of information and wisdom, and they give really, really excellent feedback. I'm really lucky to be in that group.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did you find that group?
I actually found this group, this was years ago, and I won a competition at the Children's Bookshop in Beecroft. I won a short story writing competition, and my prize was a mentor session with Amelia McInerney, who now writes as Amelia Tonta. She's a picture book writer, and we did this great mentoring session, and then she was already in the group, and she said, I'm going to ask them if you can join. Yeah. And she did, and they said yes. So I was really, really happy about that.
That's so cool. That's exciting. So how do you think most people find their critique groups? What's a good way if someone that's listening is looking to find one? How could they find one?
Yeah, so if someone who wants to find one, there's so many different ways. There's places like Writing New South Wales, like all the writing organisations, they have critique groups that you can join. Organisations like CBCA and Squibby also have critique groups. Sometimes people do a writing course together and then decide at the end of the course to form a critique group. That can be really helpful. And just at networking things, like just, at different events and things, book launches, you might meet someone and find out they're not in a writer's group, neither are you, and you might decide to start one.
Okay, awesome.
I think it's a pretty friendly industry, so I think it's really not as difficult as it sounds. Like it might sound like a bit of a scary thing to say, you know, do you want to meet and share your work and critique it? But it's actually a really nice industry.
Yeah, and it's pretty common. I think we've heard some really famous authors like Stephen King, Margaret Atwood, Brandon Sanderson. They really speak about how necessary it is to have someone critique your work before it ever goes to a publisher. And a lot of authors, even some in your critique group, will actually shout out the group in their acknowledgements of their books.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just thinking of Zoe Gatchin's latest book, YA book, Drawing Nudes While Making Other Plans. I went to the launch a couple of weeks ago. I just finished reading it. It's amazing. And she does beautiful shout outs in her acknowledgements for her critique groups, because they're like your first readers. They're the ones that really see you right from the beginning. And they can really go on this journey with you of sometimes years from when you start writing something to when it gets published.
Yes, and that's probably the most likely life cycle, right? Like, you're not going to write it, it's going to see the critique group once and then be published. That's probably a little bit unrealistic. So they really can go on that journey with you.
Yeah, like I've seen the same manuscript over years that people keep bringing. They keep going away, polishing it, making changes, editing it, and it goes from something quite different to something that ends up becoming a published book, and it's really, really exciting. And last week I took along the microphones to my picture book critique group, and there was only 3 of us there that night. There was myself, there was Liz Ledden and Kate Simpson, and I asked them if they could give us some feedback on being in a critique group, and this is what they said. All right, it's Monday night, it's cold, it's dark. I'm here at Writing New South Wales. I've driven all the way from Western Sydney, and the reason I've done that is to attend my critique group. And I've got a couple of my critique buddies here, and I'm going to just ask them what they love about being in a critique group. First up, we've got Kate Simpson, author of CBCA, winning a book, How to Move a Zoo, and many other books. Kate, what do you like about being in a critique group?
I like a lot of things about being in a critique group. Firstly, like writing, the actual writing part is quite solitary. So I love the kind of sense of community, of connecting with other people doing the same thing. I like that it keeps me honest. So often we meet once a month, and often I will go many weeks / a month minus a day without writing anything. But having the critique group coming up means I have to sit down at least once a month and, put some words on a page, which I find really helpful. And honestly, I credit my critique group for all of my success, because when I was a newbie starting out, I knew nothing about anything. They helped me understand what the expectations of the industry were, that a picture book had 32 pages typically, all of the stuff. And then, even now it's hey, did you know that this publisher is open or whatever? They just kind of have taught me the things that go along with the craft, as well as stuff about the craft itself.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm also here with Liz Ledden. Liz, do you want to tell us what you published and what you love about being in a critique group?
Thanks, Jo. Yeah, so I've got a few picture books. My most recent one was Everyone Wants an Octopus book. And I love being in a critique group too, because you get this range of opinions and everyone kind of brings their own special skills to the group. So we have people who are really good at beautiful language or poetry, other people who are really good at structure, some people, I will shout out Kate, who's really good at logic. So things that you just don't realise don't really make sense. Kate's very good at pointing that out. So I just like hearing from everyone, and they all bring something different. And the other thing is too, you can just get so caught up in your own manuscript that you can't see the flaws in it, and it's not until you bring it to the group and everyone might point out one particular thing, and it might even be the exact same thing, and you realise, oh wow, there's really something wrong with this, and everyone can see it except me. Yep. So it's just having those extra eyes.
And Sarah, you're in a critique group as well. When you receive feedback on your work, how do you take it and what do you do with it?
I haven't been to the critique group many times because I've got 2 little ones, but I found that the feedback was really great. We had Danny, who is also, I believe, an editor by trade. Oh,
yes, she is.
So she even provided amazing feedback just in little grammar or little kind of mistakes that you just stop seeing when you're looking at your own work. So right off the bat, getting that feedback was so amazing before I'd even had any feedback on the writing or the characters. And yeah, we had quite a diverse group. Like we had some young people that were like younger than me, my age, and then older. So I actually got a really good variety of feedback, and it was all really helpful. I don't think I made every single change that was offered up, but I definitely did make some based on.
So you're not feeling like, oh, I have to change this now because everyone's given me this feedback, I must do exactly what they say?
No, I didn't feel that way. And when we were reading Maggie Smith's book, Dear Writer, she says that the critiques are not a to-do list, but they're just an invitation to consider, which is really helpful to just take it or leave it. And if you love the character that way, then you really don't have to change it. Or if there's anything that you don't agree with, you can just sometimes agree to disagree and just take some feedback and leave some.
Yeah, I love that expression. What did she say? It's an invitation
to consider.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's not a hard and fast, you must change this because I'm published and you're not, perhaps, or I'm a professional editor and you're not. It's an invitation. This is, something that I think, and you can do what you like with it.
Yeah. And it's really good practice for if your book ever goes to an editor or a publisher, they might not have the same, way of conveying feedback. So it might be really good to get some practice in getting feedback, receiving it, taking it on board, making changes before you're doing it in like a really professional setting where it's your book will either be published or not be published based on how you can take feedback.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And then even if it does go on to get published, you're going to get feedback from people you don't even know.
Yes.
Perhaps on Goodreads or something. So having those baby step critique moments could be really helpful in helping you, to understand how it works and not take everything to heart.
Yeah, and even we were talking a few weeks ago about being cringe and putting yourself out there, and like that is pretty easy to do when you're not receiving hate or negative feedback. It's a lot easier to just put yourself out there. So even if you're publishing a book for the first time and you've never had any hate comments, or you're like putting yourself out there, you're so excited, you're being brave, and then you get negative, it could be really hard.
Yeah, if you've just ever had your mum reading it and going, oh, this is great, darling, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Not helpful, but good feedback is really helpful.
Yes, or the opposite. Like me, I shared my poem that I wrote for Westwords with someone recently, someone very close to me, and they said, oh, I was really prepared to lie to your face and say it was good, but I actually loved it.
I actually loved it. It's like a backhanded.
It's actually where you're a bit, but that's good feedback, I guess, in a roundabout way, whereas your critique group does not have to be prepared to lie to your face. They can give honest feedback.
That's correct. They're not sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what can I say? Yeah. No, they're just going to say, that is so funny. I love that story.
So we know what critique groups are. We know how to find them, how to join one. How can you be a really good member in a critique group?
I think probably the most important thing is to be a really good listener. So listen to what people are wanting to get out of the group. Sometimes when you're asking for feedback, it's really helpful to ask exactly what kind of feedback you want, not just general, what do you think? Sometimes you say, oh, I'm thinking, like feedback on the dialogue or the structure or something. So if someone is asking for that type of feedback, listening to exactly what they want and giving them that feedback that they want is really, really helpful. And I think also just following your group norms, as I talked about, our group is quite structured, and to be a good member of that group, we need to follow the group norms. And I did ask Kate and Liz as well what they thought being a good member of a critique group was, and this is what they had to say. That's awesome. And what do you think makes somebody a good member of a critique group?
That's a really interesting question, and I think it's horses for courses, and you need different people at different stages of where you're at sometimes. So you want to have a range. I think it can be really helpful to have a range of experience in your critique group, so that sometimes you feel like you're teaching and sometimes you feel like you're learning. Like it can be nice to be in that kind of middle zone a little bit. But I think the main thing is just to come with an open mind yourself and be willing to listen. it's very frustrating in a critique group if you feel like you're being honest and genuine with your feedback, and like we have a no arguing back rule in our critique group, which doesn't always work. But our convener tends to be pretty good at it. Like, you've got to listen and you've got to kind of just cop it on the chin, and oftentimes I'll think on the night, oh, that's silly, but then the following day I'll be like, okay, there's probably a bit of a point there. So I think, like, for yourself, if you're joining a critique group, just be really kind of open and willing to accept the criticism. You don't have to take on everything, right? You can absolutely think about it and mull it over and decide, no, they haven't quite connected, but I still stand by my original premise.
Yeah.
But it's important to at least kind of come at it with an open mind and consider whether, someone else's perspective is right.
Yeah, and it's probably like a good preparation for getting your stuff critiqued by an editor or at a manuscript assessment or something, because you've kind of already had that practice of someone giving you feedback. Maybe it's maybe toughens your skin a little bit, gives you a bit of a thick skin. What do you think, Liz?
Yeah, definitely. I think it can be, probably for new people to a critique group, maybe a shock to the system at getting all this feedback that's not necessarily people just telling you, yeah, your work's great, it's lovely, I love it. Like, maybe if you're at home and you get your partner to read it, or, your mum. But so I think it's definitely great preparation for hearing things you might not necessarily want to hear, but it might be truthful. And also the other thing, I think it's helpful in exposing you to all these people's opinions, and after a while you work out you don't have to always take on everything you hear, because not everyone's going to be right. Not that there's necessarily a right or wrong, but sometimes you might just pick or choose the feedback that resonates the most, and you have to do that in all aspects, I guess, of writing and working with editors. So a critique group really helps with that.
So we've heard all the positives. Do you think there are any downsides to being in a critique group?
Yeah, in a way. I don't know if these are exactly downsides, but I know that jealousy and comparison is something that I have experienced, not in a super negative way, but as I said, I'm the only person in my critique group who does not have a book contract or have a published book. And so I can feel a little bit jealous of the people in my group. Now, jealousy in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. Like Amy McNee, who we absolutely love her book, We Need Your Art, she talks about jealousy as a bit of a compass. So if you're feeling jealous of something, it can be because that's what you want. So in a way, feeling jealous is actually confirmation that you're on the right track. It can act as a little bit of a compass to point you or to confirm that you're heading in the right direction. Now, comparison is definitely not as useful. Just comparing yourself to someone else, I don't think is ever going to be a useful thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what Amy says. I think a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of admiration, you could even say, is probably not negative, but yeah, comparison can really beat you down.
Yeah.
Get you in a bad headspace, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't want to be that person in the critique group. That's, negative. Yeah. And, okay, we've talked about how to join a critique group, find a critique group, how to be in a critique group. What about leaving a critique group? What do you think a good way to leave a critique group could be, and what are possible reasons that we might want to leave a critique group?
A good way to leave would probably be with grace. Just remain positive and just be really grateful and thankful to everyone in the group, and just don't burn any bridges. That's assuming you're leaving just to move on, like that everything has a life cycle and a lot of things are not for every season of life. And yeah, just probably being really grateful for the time that you've had and making sure that everyone knows. And also maybe don't ghost them. Maybe give them a reason, give them some notice, and just, be really gracious in leaving.
Yeah, I love all of those ideas. Yeah, particularly the not ghosting, because I think, as you said, they do have a lifespan and a life cycle. You're not necessarily going to suit a critique group forever. And I remember when I first started trying to write for kids, I went and did a course at Writing New South Wales with Jacqueline Harvey. And one of the main things I remember her saying was just to be gracious. She just really emphasized this idea of being gracious to everyone in the community. And I think leaving a critique group is an example where you can just be really gracious.
Yeah, definitely. You can show who you are, especially it's such a small industry. It's like childcare, so that's my background. Everyone knows everyone. We've all moved houses, so moved centres, so you have connections everywhere, and you just never want to burn any bridges when that is your community, and you should be sharing information and resources and cheering each other on. I'm sure the writing community is like that too, where it's quite small.
Yes.
Especially in Australia.
Yeah, that's right.
We are a little bit secluded from other, we can't just hop on a flight to America and join their events and things like that. So we really need to be our own tribe here.
Yeah, yeah. And it is such a lovely industry. Like every person that I've met has just been so generous with their time and expertise. And yeah.
So last week we brought the challenge to ourselves to finish our co-writing picture book. So we were kind of 95% done with the manuscript. I think we had been harshly abrupt, had an abrupt stop from the kids. My kids needed something, and we kind of just closed the laptop and moved on. But we are focused on it. We are going to finish it. So we are extending that challenge for one more week.
Yeah. So no new challenge this week. We're going to actually finish last week's challenge.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Locked and loaded
Yes.
on our co-writing project. Thanks to all the inspiration from Kate.
Yes.
We're taking it all to heart.
Oh, we should go on a
We need
walk.
to go for a walk. Actually, we should.
It is a bit cold.
It's cold and rainy here in Sydney, but hey, that is helpful. If that works for the temples, then I feel we should go for a walk and then we'll lock in on finishing it.
Yeah, and we also took Michael Wagner's advice that we spoke about a few weeks ago. We put it away. We had a break from this manuscript for a couple weeks before we have revisited
So
it.
that was actually a really intentionally wise thing to do, just put it away.
And it was really fresh. I actually had that experience of like, I wonder who wrote this line. Like, it was new to me.
This is during my life, open my laptop and go, did I write this?
Yes. And there's two versions. There's the, oh, did I write this? And there's the, oh gosh, was that me? Did I write this?
That bit must have been Joe.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of co-writing. If there's something that's really bad, you can just think, well, that wasn't me, it was them.
Yeah, surely. I would never put a comma there.
I love that. All right. So that's it from us this week. Thank you for listening. You can find all the show notes for the things we've spoken about today at the societyofunpublishedauthors.com. And you can follow us both on Instagram, author Sarah Della Piedra and Joe_Dix. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.